I want to go, but I'll send you. Good evening. Welcome back to episode 169 of the Brewgooders, the beer, comics, and assorted geekery podcast. I'm Jeff, and I'm joined this week by Mr. Lagerlog Stu in the middle, and on the far right, but not a member, as far as we know, of the far right, is Mr. Andrew McGee. How are we doing, guys? We all right?
Yes.
Doing quite well. As well as can be expected in this day and age.
Yeah. Take from that what you will. How are we? So we're going to chat through our beers. We're going to chat through our comics as we usually do. We've added Assorted Geekery into the subtext of the podcast because we all I think of the three of us always just chat other assorted nonsense that maybe doesn't fit into the standard beer and comics framework. So I in a bid to make sure my laptop doesn't crash on us like it has been in pre-show, have closed all the boxes, including the one that had my itinerary. So while I load that back up, and why don't you guys tell us what you're drinking?
Andrew? Okay. I am drinking, I actually can't even read it, it's called Chillax. And it's, I've gone the wrong way here. It's that cold press IPA. There we go.
Oh,
a cold
Williams
brew
Bros.
IPA. I'm not actually sure what a cold brew IPA is. I think all beer's brewed cold, but
yeah,
cold brewed. I'm just touching what it said.
I learned about this. I think I learned about this. It's to do with the carbonation. When I used to do that wee homebrew thing, they used to often talk about cold crash, which to my knowledge is when you I think it gets your beer quicker. Like the idea is that you can carbonate. Maybe you can bring the carbonation down really, really quickly, or something. I'll Google it, but I would be.
It says it's cold brewed to max out the contact time with the hops and amplify the aroma during fermentation.
Yeah.
Deliciously laid back, gluten-free IPA delivers chilled out vibes to the max. And I'm going to say, having not had a beer for various reasons for about 3 weeks, you can always tell a good IPA because it looks like piss. Cloudier the better, quite often with an IPA. It hits the spot for me. It's a very, very nice IPA indeed.
Awesome.
Good.
How did you come across that one? Was that out of a box in the shops?
It was out of a box. I'm still working through all my box beer. I did manage to get through online and cancel my subscription with the the box beer company that was sending me boxes. I had 3 boxes of beer in the shed, and as you are well aware, a lot of beer around the place, as well as a fridge of beer down there. So I really was maxing out on how much beer I could store. I'm not sure how long it lasts. Like, I put all this beer on here, and then more beer arrives, and it's been there for maybe a year. So I'm thinking, how much longer do I have to read it? So it might be a case of we need to do like a small beer festival in my garden. And I'll just get them all out, and we can just try and clear them all out in one day. And then I can start from scratch again. I got given lots of beer over the last couple of weeks by people, including, I don't know if you can see this, but
that's a lot of Brewgooder beer.
Brewgooder, a wee Brewgooder beer box from a very good friend, Ryan. Hi, Ryan. Who handed that into the shop for me, and then also some of the guys who used to come in and game gave me a case of beer as well. So I'm inundated with beer at the moment.
Awesome.
Hi, Neil.
Nice that folk did that. Hi, Neil. Yeah, long time no see. Hiatus was long needed for a variety of reasons, and actually, I think even just the 3 of us became more necessary as the hiatus continued. So I think if we didn't take the hiatus, if we didn't take the hiatus when we did, it was coming a couple of weeks later anyway. So
I certainly wouldn't have been able to this last 2 or 3 weeks. Wouldn't have been for me. But I'm back now.
Yeah, it was. I think you would have noticed a definite dip in the quality of the podcast had we hadn't to take a break. I'm glad we did. And I'm also, guys, can't thank you too enough for actually holding the fort for the week where I thought I only needed a week and then realised I needed like fucking 4.
that was a funny old week because I think we started quite awkwardly, me and Stuart, because we've never done a podcast just ourselves, and we're kind of, because you and before you Colin kind of ran the podcast and and controlled the conversation. It was just us blethering, and we weren't sure how it was going to go. Because we're both a 2 or 3 beer podcast type of people, by 9ish or something like that, and we were on our 3rd beer, and we'd kicked back and took our shoes off, and we were just blethering on a lot of horse. So it worked out pretty well. I think
it was a good show.
I enjoyed.
It was a really good show. I went through a period of just putting on shit to listen to in the background, and it definitely fit into that. For me, that was a really good show. It was a really, really interesting one. It was good.
Can't remember.
It's glad to see us back. So yeah, it's bro. I'm not gonna lie, I overdid it last night in terms of beer. I was in a couple of pubs. I went to Seven Kings for my dinner and had some neck oil, and then I had some Gamma Ray in Monty's, which is a pub in Dunfermline that was doing a pub quiz. And I had a sore head this morning for the first time in a while. And I was like, oh, okay, may have ordered that. So I've got I didn't venture out that far and just grabbed a can of EO.
I was going to say that. I was looking at the colours there and I was like, that looks a bit punk for me.
I was going to say, is it the Aldi knockoff? But no, it's the
not.
original.
I actually prefer the Aldi knockoff. Talking about the Aldi knockoff, it was my friend Tom's birthday last week. Tom's a drinking buddy of me and Andrew's, and he I bought him because they had it for sale and I hadn't seen it for sale. In Aldi in Dunfermline, they were selling Yaldi, which was the
oh yeah.
You remember when there was some sort of feud happening between Brewdog and Aldi, supposedly. So I thought that was very strange that Aldi, because I think if memory serves, Aldi put out that anti-establishment IPA as their as their homebrewed version of Punk IPA, and my understanding of the story is that Brewdog got kind of pissed off of that, so they did a kind of Brewdog can that had the Aldi orange and dark blue colours on it and called it Give It Yaldi.
Yeah. Well, the pest. Well, yeah. Part of me thinks this was brewed up by the people in Brewdog and the people in Aldi's. This whole let's have a clever
marketing campaign
to try and market both of their beers, to try and make up for the fact that both of their beers are seen as being slightly. I don't know. I've no drank the Aldi's beer. I must admit. I should give it a go.
It's nice.
Yeah,
it's all right. It's as good as Brewdog. We talked about it on the show before. I can't remember.
Yeah, and I'm still boycotting Brewdog. Yeah. I didn't give things up, man. It's only been a year or so, and I'm like, I didn't give things up. Once I'm feuding, that's it. So it's like feud.
And they're being particularly annoying at the moment, aren't they? Like with the whole Six Nations. And they keep touting like their own stout is better than Guinness, and it's just like, right, come on now, settle down.
Many large companies have tried to tout their stout as being better than Guinness.
Your stout,
that's a T-shirt.
Irish ones,
stout touter,
like Beamish and Murphy's and stuff like this have come and gone and been seen off by Guinness. I'm fairly sure that they're not really terrified by Brewdog.
Yeah.
Can you imagine going into a pub in Dublin and asking for a pint of Brewdog stout? You'd get run out of town. You really would.
But they were doing that really.
I can give you 30-second head start.
Yeah, that's it. Aye. Every man in the pub is going to get you.
But I think they've done that really wanky thing where they got the Guinness tour, but they were secretly filming it. And at the end of the tour, they poured one of their own drinks instead of the Guinness. And I was like, oh wow, this is so punk. I can't believe it.
Yeah, because they're so punk. They're middle class men now, and it's just like, honestly, get up yourself.
My favourite. I was chatting to. I had a friend over, and we were chatting, and I'd mentioned to her about. We're talking because I've got a MasterChef cookbook in my kitchen just over there, and it's signed because I picked it up at the Good Food Show about 11 years ago, and I managed to get Greg and Greg Wallace to sign it, and the Australian guy whose name just escaped me, but John Turode. So they signed it, and they were really sound. But Brewdog were there that year, and it was like 2008, 2009, just as they were becoming more established. They were there, and I went through a beer tasting with them, and they were obviously trying to hard sell the equity for punk scheme and stuff like that. So I was telling the story to my friend, and then she was saying, "Oh, like why are Brewdog so?" And I mentioned about going down to Harrogate with you guys and how like we as a group of Brewgooders at one point we're all sitting there in a Weatherspoons with a can of Brewdog or a pint of Blue Brewdog. It was like we're just total double idiots now. We've completely sold out on all our morals. But she asked, she's like, "What's the issue?"
When we were in Weatherspoons, I wasn't drinking Brewdog.
I was drinking Planet Pale. I think
I was on Boom. I was drinking.
Oh, yes, you were. I think Colin. I don't want to blaspheme, but I think Colin was maybe on Planet Pale as well. But that is nice.
If I'm feuding. I'm just going to say that. I'm not that guy to feud and then go into a pub and go pinty punk. Nobody can see me.
She asked me why Brewdog were so such a controversial brewery now, and I googled like their Wikipedia page just to try and like give it like a summation of or surmise what happened. And actually, even says on their on the introduction to their Wikipedia page, Brewdog have gained notoriety or some words to that effect for having quite aggressive capitalist sales techniques, despite claiming to be an anti-authoritative punk. I was like, that's quite funny. That's in their Wikipedia introduction.
So I don't think they can control it. I just still like them because I think the guy's a bit of a dick. And not even both of them. I think it's just one of them.
Yeah.
There's two guys saying it.
Yeah. It's Watt. Is it James Watt, the second guy's name?
Yeah,
May not be.
He's just a bit of a dick, and I feel a wee bit sorry for the other guy, and I certainly feel sorry for the people who buy into their their every time they have a like their pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
Buy more shares and you get free drinks and shit like that. But yeah, he's just a bit of a dick.
It's like one pint on your birthday, isn't it? And you get reduced tickets to their AGM, which I think is just like a concert in Aberdeen.
Yeah.
That's
anyway,
it. That's
time over to Brewdog and know enough to Neil Bailey talking about Guinness.
Yeah. I will just say about Brewdog, like I do feel like a dick for drinking it, but it was also a gift from my 7-year-old who was in the pub the other day. It was like, "Oh, you're in a second can." That's a good one as well.
Can I? And I'm going to Stone's go-to IPA. You just can't see this guy, but this is so cold.
So yeah, Martin, talking about Guinness. Martin saying, "We'll always drink a Guinness for the Six Nations." #boycott Brewdog. And then Neil Bailey was saying, obviously we're in Scotland right now. Scotland's it's Six Nations fever's hitting. There's another Six Nations weekend coming up, and Scotland have got a chance to win the whole thing. Is that right? I'm not a rugby.
No, this weekend. If we can beat Ireland, we're in with a shout. Because we'll be one of 3 teams that have played 4 and won 3 if we can beat Ireland. But that's a very big if. Ireland are currently ranked number 1 in the world.
Yeah.
So.
That's in so Neil said, "I walked all the way through Temple Bar area in Dublin, walked into a pub and asked for a Guinness. Only made it's the only pub in Ireland that doesn't sell Guinness. Every step possible, but not Guinness." That's actually a good marketing technique, to be the only non-Guinness pub.
Yeah, it's probably have a wee pint of Beamish.
Yeah, Beamish. I've drank Beamish is made down in Cork, and I've drank Beamish in a pub. They say stout doesn't travel, and I've drank Beamish in a pub 150 yards away from the Beamish brewery. And Guinness is still better. Sorry, it just is.
I remember having Guinness when I was quite young and like swearing off it for decades, and then I can't remember what I was doing. I was investing about, I think, during lockdown, and I grabbed a can of 4, and I was like, "Shit, this is a fucking quality beer, Guinness." It's probably one of the better mass-produced beers in any supermarket.
It really is. If you have it cold enough, it is absolutely beautiful. Yeah. And a decent pint of Guinness in a pub. I sometimes wonder when I'm out and I'm drinking, I decide to have Guinness because I vary it up a bit. And whenever I drink Guinness, I always wonder, why do I ever drink anything else? Mm-hmm. But then I wake up in the morning afterwards and realise why I drink lighter beers sometimes. It's havoc with your guts and head.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful beer.
Mm-hmm. Stu, what are you drinking?
I am drinking. This is the first time I've tried one. It is a tin of Arbor, Talus and Wonderland. Is
Oh,
an
I love
American
Arbor ales,
pale ale.
and that's I
So,
bet that's
and
amazing.
it's the fact that it's like a 1 pint
Yeah,
like can of like just filled the glass. Yeah, it's actually quite a nice, lovely, like kind of citrus pale ale. I picked up in Dundee from Discovery Beers, and they had several the Arbor beers. But yeah, I just took a random shot, and obviously, like the can art or the colouring with it being
yeah, it's
Talus and
beautiful.
Wonderlands goes with it, like the Cheshire Cat.
Cheshire Cat, yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's quite clever. Quite enjoyed it.
I think is Talus the name of the is Talus the name of the hop?
It
Uh,
could be. The American Hop Talus, accompanied by
Yeah.
the wonderful Idaho 7.
They do Arbor ales are great, and actually they have like some of our statuses in the past as well, because we have drank them quite a lot on the show. They have a can like the same. So I think all their can art is kind of it's horizontal lines with different colors. If memory serves, or with Arbor written the way it is, or similar to that theme. But they have one called My Little Sabrosi, and it's
Yeah, that's
it's
like the rainbow coloured one, isn't
the
it?
rainbow one. That's a phenomenal beer. That's been one of my highlighted beers quite a few times on the show. That uses Sabro hops. So yeah, it's a really good brewery. But I quite like the idea of just building your beer around at one hop. I know you get like mixed beers that'll like throw in 2 or 3 hops and try and like they're like breweries like Arbor and breweries like Salt do it as well, where they just like pick a hop and then that just becomes like the line.
Yeah. But no, quite enjoying it.
Nice.
I'll definitely try more of their stuff.
Beer.
I was trying to look up. I Google beer news quite a lot and see what comes up, and I just thought like funny things about beer. Just trying to mix up the fucking algorithm a wee bit. One of my favorite stories of this week on doing that was from let's see if I can find it with the actual article. So there was a brewery in Australia called the brewery's called Your Mate's Brewing Company, which is a quality name for a brewing company anyway. But they do a watermelon sour beer, so Andrew will never drink it. But the reason why these guys were in the news this week internationally in the beer community is because they had to do a product recall because there was something they'd apparently put a batch of their beer through what they call a second fermentation, and therefore they were advertising a beer. They said that they'd sent out a bunch of beer that was overcarbonated and had a higher alcohol content than stated on the tin. I was like, that's absolutely amazing. You just drink this one can of beer thinking it's what, maybe 3 or 4%, and it's up in the 7s or 8s. You just be like,
you need to know these things.
Yes. Getting hammered off what you think's a 4% watermelon sour.
Well, for a start, that's what you get for drinking a watermelon beer. It's just not natural, is it?
I think it's okay with sours and all. Like, I'm not a massive fan of sour beers. I do find one I'm like, that's incredible. Like Vault City's Iron Brew one is incredible. But I think if you've got the right beer style, fruit works really well.
Yeah, it's called cider.
Tractor juice, tractor wine,
tractor.
That's Neil said to try the the Guinness.
Again,
try Guinness.
It's a bit like
I've never had that before.
It's a bit like, I don't drink 10 away as well, thingy, but I definitely wouldn't drink 10 super, or I do drink Carlsberg, but I wouldn't drink Carlsberg Special Brew, and I worry it's like that. I don't, we're going to take our beer and we're going to make it twice as strong. It just doesn't appeal to me. It just means I can drink half as much beer to get the same amount of drunk. And that way you end up, if you're having a wee night out, you would only end up out for 2 hours. And then at 9 o'clock, you'd be like, taxi. So.
I did a night out in Glasgow a couple of weeks ago, and it ended up in a sort of stunty place that did cans of what's that? Is it Reds? What's the Red Star? Red Stripe. The cans of Red Stripe for £1.80. Just like glug 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 glug, and then You end up just
Is
drinking.
that strong? Is that a
you
strong
end up
beer as well? I know my friend. I know
Yeah,
one
I
of my
think
friends.
it's, I think it's
when we
about,
were
I
at
think it's about
college.
5, but I think it's
Still
about 5.
quite strong. I mean, it's
So
not
I'd
massive,
say
but it's a good 20% stronger than your average sort of beer.
it's cheap as well. You're just like, I was just kind of back thinking, and actually they're not the pint cans. So I remember just hammered on like a tenner's worth of beer. So it's like, just saying like, just getting drunk too quick. I also read a really cool article today by Uprocks, who are like one of these like lifestyle culture websites. I just wanted to ask you guys what you thought. They did the best to visit in 2023. What country do you think had more breweries, more cities in there that you should go and drink in? I thought it was interesting because it was 10. I can name 10 European countries, and there was maybe only about.
Repeat that question again.
You have to repeat the question a wee bit, mate. I think we lost you at a certain point.
Well, it was 10. Sorry, it was 10. I didn't actually really ask a question. I just mumbled shit about Europe for about a minute there. So yeah, they mentioned 10 European cities that were like the best cities to go and drink beer in. What I thought was quite interesting is I can name 10 European countries off the top of my head quite easily. I could probably name most of the European cities, but of these 10 beer cities, there was like, actually was taken aback by the lack of diversification in country. So I was just going to ask you guys, where do you think these breweries were? If you were to
Germany and Austria. I think you'd have Berlin, maybe Prague, but Berlin, Frankfurt,
so
Dortmund.
I used to sleep during geography, so I don't really know anywhere.
Just most of the best beer I think in the world comes from.
As soon as you said Germany, that's into like
Germany.
You said
possibly Belgium. Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah. So I thought it was quite interesting. The article was interesting because I think we were talking about the article was quite interesting. So I think we were talking about things like where like why you would go to that place to drink as well. But yeah, 4 of them were in 4 of those cities were in Germany of the 10 mentioned, and there weren't cities I never really thought about either. I'm trying to bring up the article.
Have you ever been
the first
to
city
Germany?
they said was I've not, but we always talk about it on the podcast.
It's amazing. I
want to get out there.
Yeah.
So they mentioned Rome. Rome came up.
Okay.
They mentioned Bamberg in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned Prague in the Czech Republic. They mentioned London as the only European city on the list. Cologne in Germany.
Hold on. Because the only Europeans are the only British city on the list, you mean?
The only British city in Europe on this list was London.
Okay.
Then they had, is it Plen or Zen Plen in Czech Republic?
Don't know.
Then I don't know. Then Brussels in Belgium. Then Leipzig in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dublin in Ireland. And then last but not least was Munich in Germany, which I want to go. So yeah, Munich is only 400. 2 of them.
See, Munich do a marvelous. Like I've not been to Munich, but they do a brilliant Oktoberfest apparently, and so that's a great place to go. I'm surprised Berlin didn't get in, but yeah, I would have said definitely Berlin.
I've got a friend Emma who
pubs, so I think it's a good drinking area, but it does need. Like I don't think you get a lot of beers from Ireland. You get. They're very similar to Scotland was in the sort of 70s, 80s, I think. It was like, they've got their lager, which is Harp. They've got their, which is made by Guinness, I think. They've got Guinness, obviously. Yeah. They've got a dark beer called Smithwick's, which you used to be able to get in this country. It was called Kilkenny when it was branded through here, and it was actually really nice. And Caffrey's, but I'm not sure if they still make that. But yeah, I'm surprised Dublin made it onto the list. Like say, for pubs and stuff, yes, but no for breweries and things.
Yeah, I think that was what the article was called. But the article, I'll put the link to it online. They often talk about like Italy. I don't think it's known for its breweries, but in Rome in particular isn't. But they were saying like in Rome's like because of its cafe culture is like a total perfect beer city because it's like you can drink and like people watch, and you can't really do that in some of these other places. What I thought was quite interesting about Munich being named is I've got a friend Eva who what helped me do quite a lot of editing on the Brewgooder anthology. She did a lot of the formatting and the inside covers for us. But she's from that area, and you mentioned Oktoberfest. I was chatting to her in October last year, and she was talking about how fucking angry she gets because, like, she says Munich itself, Oktoberfest happens all over Bavaria, but Munich itself is like it's a bit like the Christmas market in Edinburgh that is to us. Whereas like folk travel all around the world to go to like one specific area, and she's like, no. Bavaria is the whole Germany celebrates Oktoberfest, and actually, even if you just got the plane to Munich and then took a train to one of the nearby cities in that area, you would have a better Oktoberfest experience. It'd be cheaper, it would be less busy. You know what I mean? That she was kind of throwing those ideas out there. So I was like, yeah, definitely want to go to that area.
My brother's a big Germanophile or Germanyphile or something like that. And he was over there when he was in the RAF, and he speaks Germany, and I think he wants to retire there. And he swears by a place called Koblenz, which is I don't know if it's in Bavaria, but he's been to the thing he's there, and he says that's it's a great place to go. So yeah, she's probably right. I wouldn't want to go to have something that the Germans hate, to go to the equivalent of the Princess Street German market. You want to go to something more traditional and more real. So
something authentic.
Yeah, totally.
We should go to Oktoberfest in Prague.
I forgot to say in September.
September. Make our own Oktoberfest. All you need is a pair of what do you call these things that they wear?
Oh, the Lederhosen.
Lederhosen. And I'm sure Germans think it's hilarious when foreign people show up in Lederhosen. I'm sure they love it. Yeah. It's like how Scottish people love it when foreigners cat about in kilts, cheap kilts and Jimmy hats with the red hair.
I don't know. I love it. I love seeing anyone in a kilt. It's just annoying when like you say, it's annoying when it's a Royal Mile £15 number. That's not really a kilt. It's more just a skirt that's been sold as a kilt to a tourist. Because actually, kilts are fucking quality. And actually, I'd swan around in one more often if I could get away with it. I think.
Triply.
Okay, so yeah, in it, please fire any beer comments, related comments. This will be on YouTube as well. That's why I've stuck the wee beer thing in the corner. There will just be a beer video on YouTube. That's just this section. So yeah, thank you if that's why you came here. I checked the algorithms. There's people, you can see wee spikes in our podcast if you look at our algorithm and when people like tune in. So thank you for all the beer guys. And get in touch if you've got a beer that you think we should check out. We're going to be chatting about comics now, I think. Is that right? That's year-end comics. How have you guys been on the comic front recently? What have you been able to get much reading done?
I have, yeah. I got I've says what some people know. I'm in the process of closing my shop down, so I'm cherry picking some of the best books to bring home. Now, books that I've had my eye on for a while, but I couldn't justify bringing home because I wanted to sell them. And I look at them now and I think, well, nobody's got to buy that, so I may as well just bring it home. And so that's why I'm going to present to you this week the biggest, thickest comic I think I've ever thingied.
It was Kieran Gillen.
Yeah, Die by Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Hans, who's a beautiful artist. If you check out Stephanie Hans online, she reminds me of it's like Dave McKean sort of style. It's very like painted and
absolutely. It's like many art pieces.
It's this marvelous story about a group of kids that are playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's like if you're old enough. Neil, you possibly will remember this. If you're old enough to remember the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon from the 1980s, which was about a group of kids who played Dungeons and Dragons, and they were whisked into the dungeons. You know, the games master showed up. I'm going to bring you into the things, and he brought them into the thing, and they had the powers of the barbarian and the mage and stuff like this. And it's a very similar premise, but if it was written, you know, by like J.R.R. Tolkien on acid, it's very dark, you know. And the kids are missing for a couple of years, and when they come back, you know, one of them's missing completely, doesn't he come back, and one of them's lost an arm, and none of them will talk about what happened. And then they age up normally in real world, and then when they're aged sort of 35, they get together again, and somehow managed to get sucked back into this fantasy land that they thought they'd thingied. It's very dark, beautifully drawn, excellently written. I know some members of our clergy, the Brewgooders, are huge fans of Kieran Gillen.
Yes.
You know, as a sort of friendly individual, he sometimes leaves a wee bit to be desired. But the guy's a good creator, in my opinion. And Stephanie Hans is a marvelous. You know, if you do nothing else, just go and have a look at some of her art. She's a marvelous artist, and that's what I'm working my way through just now. It'll probably take me a couple of weeks.
I really like that idea of the sort of the post experience with these things. So you often see in media, like somebody. I'm trying to think of guys like, you know, like the one that springs to mind is Total Recall, where like it ends at the end of this sort of pocket of time or something, all this dramatic shit's happened, like all movies, I suppose. Yeah. I really wanted there to be a Total Recall movie, or like an epilogue where you actually found out what happened after the shit on Mars.
Yeah.
And like actually, you know, if it was all a dream, where they have to fucking like go back to real life, having thought he'd like save the world, or if it was, you know, or if it was real, what would happen next? I quite like the idea of like that sort of Dungeons and Dragons. They went on this sort of epic journey as a group of kids, and then being like, what happens next? Is quite, you know, it's quite cool, because like you watch these programs, like the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, like they never got home, those kids, did they? I think because they cancelled the show before
they cancelled the show before they could get through. So as far as we're aware, they're still wandering, you know, Dungeons and Dragons. Which could be a story in itself. We should do it.
That's a Netflix
a D&D
series waiting to happen.
Well, we've threatened to do an online D&D podcast.
We did.
Just play a game.
Yeah, and that still happened, I suppose. But we did threaten to do that last year. I think
imagine if you did it, but you had to pick one of the kids from a Dungeons and Dragons comic cartoon, and it's 25 years later. So the wee kid who was the barbarian, who was, you know, cute and cheery at 11, but he's now 38 or 40.
Yeah.
And he's still stuck in this barbarian body. And
I sing totally fucking all the time about I listen to a podcast called Dungeons and Daddies, and it's 28, 29 episodes now into its second season, which has, so the first season focuses on a group of dads who enter the Forgotten Realms to go and rescue their lost sons who have been kidnapped by a malevolent force. Series 2 is about their grandkids, so it's about the children of the kids that were rescued in season 1, but it deals with it was quite interesting because season 1 kind of deals with what it means to be a father, and season 2 deals with what it means to be a kid that's inherited like a really shitty legacy.
Yeah,
and it's really cleverly done, and I quite like this idea that like I say, you always see you're always with your heroes during their moments of triumph. You never, I don't know. One of my favorite scenes in the Rocky series is, and it's a shit film, at the start of Rocky 5 when he's in the shower, and he's having like a bit of a meltdown, and then you're like, yeah, we're so used to like being there with Rocky when he's fucking gone 12 rounds with Ivan Drago and you know, ended the Cold War and stuff like that. Yeah. And then you've got and actually there is like that, and I think we feel it in our everyday lives when you have that whole thing, even just like the Comic-Con come down, when you spend all weekend at Harrogate like total, or Glasgow totally like chatting to your pals, selling comics, leathering, getting right into the zone, and then there's the Sunday night when you get home and you're like, your head's still buzzing a wee bit, but
Yeah.
you
You're so tired, so tired. I think you've spoken to me about that Dungeons and Daddies. I really like the idea that they didn't just play characters. Everybody who plays D&D plays a character. You know, I'm playing this. I'm playing the barbarian, the mage, or whatever like that. But they play a character playing a character.
Yeah.
So the guys play like the soccer mums. Was it the soccer dads?
Yeah.
Playing the character.
So they basically invent. It is. So they invent like dads. So like Daryl, who is a stay-at-home soccer dad who helps try and coach some team.
Yeah.
But then when they enter the Forgotten Realms, he acquires the skills to become a barbarian. Basically, so that's what you're saying. It's like, yeah, they create. It's written by TV. You know, the guys that write Dungeons and Daddies wrote Video Game High School for Netflix.
Right,
so they're established writers.
Sort of thing.
Yeah. And it tells because the storytelling is brilliant. So, but that sounds amazing, man. I'll maybe try and steal it off you when you're finished.
Yeah, no problem. You can borrow that. You can borrow that sucker, no problem, man. It's a beautiful big book.
That's Andy Haston. It's great to see us back. This week he read both issues of Dan Butcher's Viper, which you should buy off Dan. If you can't get a copy of it through Dan, you can get the first issue on Comic House, the sort of independent comics online reader app. It's really good. And he says Dan Butcher's Viper is a fun read with great art. It's an entertaining 80s retro buzz. I took second at Viper's brilliant. We had Dan on the show last year, maybe the year before, talking about Viper. It's very much like an homage to all those quality shows that we all loved in the 80s, where there was like a talking car and a helicopter with like loads of like buttons that just did shit.
Cool.
Stu, what have you read this week?
I completely forgot about the comic part, but I did manage to like feverishly read through a comic just before starting, and it was Gotham City Monsters.
Oh, nice.
I'm not too sure from when it was. I mean, it's got an advert for Joker on the back, so it'll be from around about then. But no, it's just kind of like first issue, kind of just introducing you to several characters like Killer Croc, Frankenstein, the Orca, a guy that I was convinced was Morbius, but it's a guy called Andrew Bennett. Then realized that's a Marvel character. But yeah, there's something happening. Someone's being resurrected, and it's getting all these monsters' attention. But probably my favorite bit to show off is this part where Andrew Bennett's getting cut straight in half by Frankenstein.
Nice.
There's always just kind of like one shot in the comics, like, oh, that would look mint on the side of a panel van.
Frankenstein is a hugely underused character. They've got a version of Frankenstein in the DC universe. It was used all through they did a crossover event about 5 or 6 years ago, which crossed over multiple titles.
Right.
And it wasn't very good, to be honest with you. But he was a massive character in that. It was one of those horrible ones that ended up going nowhere. It was like, Terry, what's his face? The Batman Beyond came back from the future to try and stop something from happening. I think Brother Eye taking over the world and stuff like this. And it was 48 issues, and at the end of that, he died and didn't manage to stop the future. And the only thing that changed was that Tim Drake went on to become the new Batman Beyond. And it was just, you ever read a comic? You ever become invested in a comic for 48 issues? It was taken out weekly, so it was like a year of your life. And at the end, you were like, I wish I hadn't read that. Well, this was that.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, this is like a $4 comic, so that times 48.
Yeah.
Imagine like your actual investment of time and money.
It was a massive investment. I think I've still got multiple copies of some of the issues sitting in boxes in the shop. But yeah, one of the things that did work in it though, which was where I was going, was Frankenstein. Frankenstein had a sort of recurring storyline through it.
Yeah, and that's it. I always kind of enjoy the monster side of DC, like with like Constantine and Swamp Thing. They're kind of like my go-tos. If I see their books in a shop, I will tend to pick a couple of those up. But yeah, Gotham City Monsters. There was 6 Monsters Heroes, 1 Multiversal Threats. But it was Steve Orlando was the writer. I'm not sure if that's a familiar name to either of you.
Not to me.
No, I don't know. To be honest, no.
Yeah, but
Who was the artist? That panel was really good. Who was the artist?
It is all the credits was like at the back, which really threw me off. Artist is a Manake Nathaniel. Okay, it's a name I can't pronounce. Let's see if I could hold it to the camera. So I could either butcher your name or just under chapter 1.
Steve Orlando just
don't recognise any of the names on that. To be honest.
Not Nahuel Pan, maybe. Nahuel Pan.
Amanke Manuel Pan.
Maybe South American, possibly.
Yeah, I mean the artwork's awesome. I showed you like that one. It was there actually. Like another cool image.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Eh?
And then it really threw me off because I got to the bloody middle of the comic, and all of a sudden it turned into like a vintage Batman comic, but it's actually just an advert for Snickers.
Oh yeah, they did that for a wee while. I remember that. That probably sort of dates the comic back to about 2018-19-ish, sort of just before COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I sort of remember
for Joker, yeah.
Yeah, I remember those adverts and being like, because I was reading a lot of DC about that time, like 4 or 5 years ago.
Was that all that stuff that you were reading at the time? The Red Death and the Batman all around about that time as well. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was what you were saying about like investment, because I tried for about 3 or 4 years. I tried to do like one event a year. So like DC or Marvel tend to have 2 or 3 events, but like it is an investment, and you have to go online and find like a reading list. Sometimes Marvel or DC will be kind enough to send you or to print a list, but like, and you can go through like various iterations of the list, and you can read like, I don't know, you can read the prelude and then the epilogue and then like the main series. Or if you want to, you can like buy all the tie-ins. And there'll be just like a random. Yeah,
I did that for Civil War, the first Civil War, and there's like 100 issues or something like that in Civil War. If you read all the tie-ins, the 4 issues of Fantastic Four and the 4 issues of things like this, and then it doesn't give anything more if you just read the main story.
Yeah,
like I think the same thing happened. That famously had the moment where Iron Man outed Peter Parker as Spider-Man. And I saw that happen, like 8 times or something like that in different issues. But then you start to spot discrepancies as well when you read them all. Like Wolverine was in 3 different places during Civil War because obviously the writers weren't talking. So he was away doing something with the Avengers, something with the X-Men, and then he was in his own title doing something else. So yeah, just I've stopped trying to do full things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I did it with the Dark Knight Metal one, the one that I think I told you most of them. And there was 2 interesting ones in there, and then I did it with. There was a Thor centric one called War of the Realms that Marvel did a couple of years ago, which was good fun. But you're right about discrepancy. You do, but I would also say in saying that you also find like a wee mini arc of a series that you maybe wouldn't have picked up normally, and that's always quite a pleasant surprise as well. There was during the War of the Realms series, which focused on like the dark. There's a Marraketh, the Dark Elf, basically took over all the realms apart from Earth, and New York becomes like the last bastion. And then when when New York starts to fall, Doctor Strange starts to evacuate folk through like the Sanctorium portal to that. What was it? That place that all the sorcerers go to in the movie.
Oh yeah, the temple.
It basically he starts sending everyone through there using like his house place as like a teleporter, and he's just taking like a couple thousand folk through it at a time while the other superheroes are defending them. and eventually he realizes that he's going to run out of time. Before, like New York's going to fall before he's able to get everyone out. So he basically does like one big last blast, try and grab as much as he can, and he grabs everyone. And then, but there's like a subplot where the X-Men, or what's left of the X-Men, because I know the X-Men have gone through the ringer in the last like decade of comics. But there's like just one the last group of surviving X-Men have been left behind. So they basically turn a baseball stadium in New York into like a fortress, and they're just trying to rescue stragglers in New York. And it's just a really cool wee story, which I wouldn't have picked up. I wasn't just the idea that like, and it's like folk hate the X-Men because I think the X-Men have been antagonists in quite a few series in the last 10 years, and but it's just like it's a small group of like Wolverine and Cyclops and that are just trying to do the right thing. It was just like, oh, this is like a nice wee side story to the bigger story about Thor, you know.
Yeah.
So, I love it when I love that point where I'm like, I need to review something for this week, and I just have a little look at our emails, and there's like 5, you know. So please do that. My plan is to like review every comic anyone ever sends us, but and apologies that we've been off air quite a lot. I know in the last 3 or 4 weeks we've maybe had 5 emails from people who have wanted us to cover the launch of their Kickstarter, and actually a couple of those Kickstarters in the time that we've been on hiatus have been and gone. But yeah, if you've got a Kickstarter coming up this year, please get in touch, and we will do our absolute best to have a look and plug you and review it. For example, I read a really cool issue 1 today called Hornets that was illustrated by Ben Edwards. So Ben Edwards is it was written by Jordan Sam Adams, who's an award-winning writer from Birmingham, who has written comics for Blue Fox Comics, who are friends of ours. Disconnected Press and 100% biodegradable. I haven't met him, but his illustrator is Ben Edwards, who is an illustrator, writer, and designer from Burnley in the UK. But we met Ben at Acme last year. He came and chatted to us for a wee while, and so he dropped us an email last week to say, I've just drawn this book, Hornets. It's going to get launched on the 21st of March. I'll put all the information in the plug. But yeah, it's a really cool series about set in the near future, sort of 2060, where there's a war between like the alliance of America, which is like what the USA becomes in the next 3 decades, and they have like a special ops group called the Hornets that are an all-female group of sort of special ops agents, but they're almost rock stars as well because they're so like popular in their government, and I think their exploits have become legendary. That as well as being like assassins and snipers and shit, they're also like pinups. And but it's dealing with the fact that issue 1 of Hornets deals with the fact that their government betrays them, basically sells them to the enemy as part of an attempt to broker peace between this American alliance and an international conglomerate or republic who are who are the antagonists. But it's just basically it's all from the perspective of the Hornets, who are a group of who's this group of special force women who are now in this concentration camp, sort of prisoner of war camp in a rogue state, having been sold off by their own government, and they're trying to escape and they're trying to like bring justice to what's happened to them. But at the same time, there's a lot of like interlinking drama between them. Like two of the Hornets were in a relationship just before the mission that got them imprisoned, and there's been dishonesty and there's been cheating going on in that relationship. That they're like, I think there's that situation where like, I'm fucking raging at you, we'll deal with this when we get home, and then they never get home. And it's just kind of stuff like that. So really cool, beautiful, quite well drawn. So Ben did a really good job. A really interesting story where I think the more I think about it, the government that the Hornets work for are potentially the baddies. You know what I mean? Obviously, like you would assume that the guys that you're following are fighting on behalf of the goodies, but maybe part of maybe part of the story is this group of heroes realizing that fighting a war for the wrong side. That's quite interesting as well. But, yeah, written. That's a full page panel of It's really nicely drawn.
Oh, okay.
I will fire the link. I'll fire the Kickstarter link up because it's not out yet. A couple of weeks it'll be up. So, and I'll obviously talk about it more at the time. That's Neil saying that he Comics has just bought Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale graphic novel. That'll be laugh a minute, Neil. You'll chortle your way through that one.
I think that's one of those one of those novels that you see, a dystopian, when a dystopian novel has become to the fact that it could be written as a factual book now. You think to yourself, these novels aren't supposed to be done as guidebooks. They were supposed to be done as warnings. 1984 and The Handmaid's Tale, the one oh, that's a great idea. But yeah.
One of my favourite, I follow a group of Australian comedians called Auntie Donna, and one of them put on these Instagram shorts. You put a video that was like, when you're in a funny mood, but don't realise that your girlfriend's watching The Handmaid's Tale, and it's like just him walking into a room like this and kind of going. He's like, yeah. Everyone that I know watches Handmaid's Tale loves it, but also sort of hates it.
It's anxiety. It's one of those shows that it's obviously designed to make you uncomfortable, and sometimes stuff is like that. But your mindset has to be in the right place, I think, to be able to watch something. It's not uncomfortable. Which isn't where I am at the moment. I'm only interested in watching things which make me feel fun and light, stuff like this. So I'm watching the Korean equivalent, which is a show called Kim's Convenience. It's actually a Canadian show. And it's my new favourite show, and it's just so much fun. Light-heartedly fun.
I am. What was I going to say there? Yeah, I think I totally agree. We'll get onto that when we talk about Assorted Geekery, which I think is quite soon. I've got some really. I've been watching programs for the sole purpose of being entertained without being challenged, and I've quite enjoyed my last couple of weeks of watching telly. Neil, let us know how you get on with that. We'd really like to get you on the show again. Like you did that video for us a couple weeks ago, or a couple of months ago. That was amazing. It was very well received. So if you want to review The Handmaid's Tale, that would be absolutely amazing. Any other comic stuff? I've got. I wanted to fire a couple of things. My understanding is that Ram V's writing on Batman just now has been regarded as some of the best writing in Batman in a long time. So folks should be checking it out.
Well, everyone knows how I feel about Ram V.
But he's been doing a lot of stuff about sort of that dark underbelly of which when it comes out of my mouth, it sounds like every comic written about Batman at the moment. But he's writing detective comics just now, and he started in Detective Comics 1062, but as Games Raid have worded it in the article that I looked at this morning about it, he has steadily been providing a hauntingly ethereal look at Batman and his role in Gotham. So I really like, my favorite Batman stories are when they don't have Batman out of being the shout of like an antagonist. It's when they really look at actually who he is and actually what that role in Gotham actually looks like.
I agree. I think
the legacy of
Grant Morrison is widely regarded as the guy who's done some of the best runs on Batman. And he did quite a famous run called No Man's Land, which ran for a year, and basically it was through Detective Comics, I think, and it was when Bruce Wayne wasn't there. Bruce Wayne was, he was missing. He wasn't in Gotham, and it was everyone else having to step in and fill the void left by Batman, and what that did to them, and how they reacted to it, things like this. So, yeah.
Yes, and obviously, we've got a couple of big comic events as well that I wanted to talk about. We have who I think were heavily involved in the Mutant story. Obviously, our very own Colin was involved in it. they have been, for the last couple of months, been putting on a comic art exhibition in Howden Park Centre in Livingston, which will be running from the 3rd of February to the 9th of April. Free entry. It's a history of West Lothian and comics today. But we've, I think myself, David, Colin, and loads of other Scottish and Scottish-based comic creators and international comic creators have contributed to this. It's a comic supported by the Heritage Lottery Scotland. It was written by Colin Maxwell, that featured work of 23 artists, led by cast and former guest edited by Tony Foster, who I'm hoping to get on the show quite soon. But they're doing, as part of this massive exhibition, they're doing an exhibition. So there's a Comic-Con this Saturday, so Saturday 11th of March, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. in Howden Park Centre in Livingston. I'm going to be there with a Brewgooder table. I know David's going to be there, sort of as a Brewgooder / Glass City, and Colin's going to be there as Colin tends to be there as the comes with us, and then we never see him for the weekend because he's schmoozing with other creators. So yeah, if you're in Livingston on Saturday this year,
I was supposed to be with you on Saturday with some comics and a thing like that, but because of changing circumstances, I'm in the shop this Saturday, so I'll not be able to make it. I hope you have a great time.
Do you want to? Yeah, I hope so too. If you're in Livingston, if you're not in Livingston, you should be in Kirkcaldy, because I think Andrew's got a massive weekend this weekend in the comic shop, haven't you? So
yep, second last week open to this Saturday. We'll be open the 18th for the last day, but still lots and lots of bargains to be had. So if you're in Kirkcaldy area, pop along and see us before we're gone.
Mm-hmm. I'm hopefully going to be there, and I just want to rake through all those long boxes. Like this is the perfect amount of reading for me. Like just something I could just sit and read in one go. So if I could find several of those, I will be happy, and I'll have lots to talk about for future Brewgooding.
Well, there's 10,000 plus comics there, Stuart. So I'm sure something.
Right, I'll head along after this and get started then.
That's really my plan as well. My plan is on Saturday to try and sell as many comics as I can, and then I'm going to take what I earn and split it in two, and then take half of it to Kingdom Comics on Sunday with Sunny, and just buy as much shit as I can.
Nobody there on Sunday, mate, I'm afraid.
I'm not going to do that on Sunday. I'll be next week then for your last
Saturday for the big closing down sale on the 18th.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'll sort you out some deals. Don't worry.
Amazing. Right then. So yeah, that's two things you should be doing this weekend if you're in Central Scotland. But also just Google your town and the word comics and see what's happening. If you're international, you should be doing that every weekend anyway. Okay, so Assorted Geekery. So Assorted Geekery is the part of the podcast where we just talk about all the other stuff that
books, TV shows, movies, etc. What are you excited about? What news that's come around has made you go, what the fuck? And what news has made you go,
loads of stuff.
Actually, I can see that.
I've got two easy ones if you want to get me out the road.
One at a time, guys. One at a time.
I'm just so excited because it's been a month and there's been so much geeky shit. Yeah, but Stu, please start us off.
Okay. The trailer for the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated movie is coming out this summer. Oh, it just looks so much fun. It's from obviously Seth Rogen's got a big involvement, but I think it's from the director of The Mitchells versus the Machines, which is like an animated movie, came out last year or the year before, that done really well, but it's this great art style. The Ninja Turtles, like the voice actors have been cast, are actual teenage boys. So they've all got these wee high pitched voices.
Who'd have thought that would just add to the authenticness of the product?
One of them gets a knife in the leg and they're all screaming because they don't know what to do. And,
I love that bit of the trailer because it reminded me of that whole, like, when you were a kid and you got in a fight and you were like,
one of your fingers is pointing in a direction it shouldn't.
But when you were trying to deal with it, as well as being like, oh my god, are you okay? Okay, fuck, we need to get an ambulance. Don't tell my mum though. Please don't tell my mum.
It's another South Park episode where Butters gets like stabbed in the eye or something like that.
and to solve the problem without getting in trouble.
Yeah, no, they cover him in glue and pretend he's a dog or something. Because it's a bizarre episode. It's the episode where they were, it was Captain Chaos, and they all thought they were anime characters.
It was the anime episode, wasn't it?
But yeah, you've always been there where you just like the roughhousing goes a wee bit too far, and then before you know it, somebody's on the ground with their leg broken, and like it was an accident.
I was watching that thing on Instagram the other day where it was a wee boy playing FIFA with his pal, and it was like one of these things like best reaction to a goal ever. And the boy, only about 9, he stands up and he's just like, "Fuck!" and he punches the screen and he breaks it, and then he's like, "I just fucked my telly. I just fucked my telly." And he turns to the camera and it's like his pal's still like filming the whole thing, and he's like, I'm just gonna tell my mom something's happened." It's like just record the whole conversation. That's what that is.
The whole thought process.
And then his pal put it up on YouTube, and he's just like, "Aye, well done. You got away with that one, son." Speaking of football, and it would be remiss of me not to mention it. As soon as you brought football up, so you actually opened that door. But
the bidding door, Jeffrey.
We'll get back to the Turtles in a minute. It's fine.
After like professionally the worst 2 weeks of my life, on Sunday Liverpool beat Manchester United 7-0 in what was truly an extraordinary day and an extraordinary performance. And I've spent most of the last 3 days on YouTube. I don't know if you watch YouTube or if you watch YouTube, but there's a certain subset of YouTube where it's people who watch football and Manchester United fans and watch football and sort of commentate
live reactions
as the game's on, and it's fan reactions. So I've spent the last 3 days basically watching fan reactions of Manchester United fans reacting to them getting absolutely pumped 7-0. You've got to take your pleasures where you can in this world, I think. Yeah. And if it's in the misery of others, so be it. Yeah. But we'll get back to that. I know we're not a football podcast. I know the only
not yet, anyway.
That we mentioned here is the one that men do in trunks. So.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's spandex, Andrew. Calm down.
Or sometimes it's spandex.
More often than not. I think that Turtle show is good. I spoke to my friend Craig about it this week, and his response was, after Invincible and after The Boys, I would trust Seth Rogen to do anything. So actually, I'm hopeful. He is a fan. I think he's been quoted in interviews as saying he's trying to bring it back to he's trying to mash as much as he can with the original comic. Obviously he understands that there's, I think, 30 years of Turtle legacy now, and you have to look at it and you go, right, fair enough. I get that there's the arseholes like me that are like, fucking, I want it to be more like the comics, but there's also people that want a straight out rerun of the 1980s TV series. Then you've got people that fucking love the Michael Bay shit because that's what they grew up with. You know what I mean? So
that's it. That's the thing. I'm less likely. I'm less likely to trust Seth Rogen just off the back. Fair enough. Yeah, he did well with The Boys. He had a great, some great actors, some great things. But Seth Rogen's also the man who brought Preacher, and the Green Hornet to the screen. Yeah. So his track record in comic related stuff is patchy.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's hope it's The Boys rather than Preacher. Certainly, but we shall see. Certainly, I think I'm with you. I've been reading Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle material since the 1980s. I had it back when it was still in black and white. Back when they all had red masks, and they had to make that decision to have all the masks different colours so that you could differentiate between them.
You sell more toys.
To sell more toys. And I've always wanted a decent movie. I think the last animated one they did wasn't bad.
The Netflix one.
Was it
TMNT?
TMNT.
Oh, right, no.
I think it was before the Netflix one. Sorry.
Yeah, there was a Netflix one last summer.
No, this is going back a decade at least, I think.
It was 2007. I should know this because I actually, when I was doing Spirit of Inky I was doing my press tour for Spirit of Inky. I got invited onto a podcast that was just basically reviewing. It was a podcast of a guy in England who basically reviews comic book movies that aren't Marvel or DC, and so we did TMNT, and I watched it twice and read the whole Wikipedia article and then all the making of shit, so that I knew what I was talking about. It was 2000. I think it was 2007. It came out, so it was just before.
I knew it had been a while, so but I thought it was an okay movie.
I enjoyed it.
The one I was thinking of, it was called Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie, which was like a Netflix movie, 5th of August, 2000, last year. But it was like, had real Terminator vibes. That I think it was Casey Jones got sent back from the future to help the Turtles because the futures went to shit. I think like Krang had taken over, and like the Turtles were sacrificing themselves to try and prevent the apocalypse happening. And just for like, let's watch this. And by the end of it, I was like, I'm really invested in this. Like this just looked like a silly cartoon. Like, that's not like my Ninja Turtles. But by the end of it, we were all like, that was really bloody good. So
I need to check that out. I haven't even given that a go. I knew that was very well received. I really like the first Turtles movie. You know, the one, the early 90s one.
Yeah, aye.
Yeah, I like that one. Obviously, the Jim Henson puppets are incredible.
Yeah, you know, a Golden Harvest production.
Yeah, totally. Totally love it. There's just some amazing character work in that as well. I think it's probably I would argue that and TMNT, the CGI one that Andrew mentions, are the best movies that they ever did. There's a really awesome bit in the movie where Shredder's kicking the shit out of them in the first movie. And I don't know why it's always stuck with me, but they've gone through about 10 minutes of beating up foot patrol guys, foot soldiers, and been really like those funny chat, you know, when they're chatting to each other as they're beating up baddies and stuff, and it's all and then Shredder comes in and there's a point where like they're all panting, and Shredder's just kind of standing opposite a rooftop from them, and they're like, and I think it's Donatello turns around and goes, "Can anyone work out at what point we lost control?" It's just like he's just totally he's aware that they're no longer like winning the fight. It was like, this is pretty
cool. But I mean, it's also like the best poster for a Turtles movie. That one where it's just the eyes coming out of the sewer drain, like the lids. Fucking love that movie.
Yeah, that was certainly one of my favorite adverts. I don't know how far back we can go. I watched the Super Bowl, and I think the Super Bowl came out just after we went on hiatus. But I don't know. Did anyone see the Super Mario teaser trailer that they brought out?
Oh yeah, it was like an advert for their business.
An advert for their business. So good with the Super Mario Brothers Super Show rap on, and then
aye. It was very clever. Like that film was going to make a tremendous amount of money and will probably be universally loved. It's just like my son is counting down the days to see it.
Mario, that film is going to be an absolute bomb. It will struggle to make back its production costs, and it's going to be universally derided, just the same as the Bob Hoskins one from the 1990s will be. This is a name, like, apart from maybe, was it Rise of the Tomb Raider?
Yeah.
There has never been a good movie based off of a game. I don't know, people will come up and go, Mortal Kombat! Or one person in particular maybe will come in and say Street Fighter, which did have Kylie in it, which is got his good points, but
the boy from Adam's Family, like in one of his last roles, not his last one,
before he died.
Raul
Garcia.
He's brilliant in that. He's brilliant because he's the only one not taking it seriously. And as a result, it's incredible. There must be a decent comic book movie adaptation.
I haven't seen the Uncharted. I know there was the Uncharted movie which came out recently.
That was average.
Yeah, that's what I've heard about that one. It's average. What about I want to say like one of the animated Final Fantasy movies. I've got a friend that'll go out there and say Spirit Within. Is that that's the shit one, isn't it? There's one that's
that was the one where it's like an original story. But yeah, you had Advent Children, which was like some sort of sequel to Final Fantasy VII. But it was fine. But I mean, even
Sonic
like this,
Hedgehog was
Sonic
alright.
the Hedgehog.
The
That's
ver-
what I was going to say. Like my children love that film, and I
That's true
wasn't
enough,
disappointed.
more than anything else. I'm sorry, guys. But
So, I mean,
I'm
it's
trying to
got
think.
James
You have-
Marsden. What could go wrong?
no, I just
Superman.
can't see the Mario Brothers one being. I will eat like if it becomes universally adored and makes back its money, I'll come on here and I'll eat I'll drink peppermint stout or something like that. You can
I am
the worst fruitiest
Between
beer that you can
now
find.
and the 7th of April, me and Jeff will accrue the sweetest of milk stouts.
The sweetest of milk stout, something
We'll
with
have
Is it
them
7th of
ready
April?
for you.
Is it the 7th of April it comes out?
Yes, my son is counting down the days because that's the first date he will be taking his girlfriend on.
Oh,
He's
That's a good
9.
that's
what?
brilliant.
He's
7?
9 years old.
9. And they're
And
going
I
he's
didn't
to
realize
see,
it was so
and they're going to see
soon.
Mario. Brilliant.
So
I
it's
didn't, I
like
didn't, I
that's
didn't
it.
realize, that's going to be great. I might have to buy one of those blinking passes because there's like so many movies coming out this year. Like normally I'm like not that bothered, but the Dungeons and Dragons movie comes out on the 31st of March.
Looks
is
like
what-
it could be a whole lot of fun.
It looks like it could be quite decent. Yeah. What was I going to say?
You've got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3's coming.
I don't know how I feel about that one. That one feels like it's going to be a bit heavy, even though it's a
Yeah.
Guardians movie. But, I watched that trailer and thought, I am not digging how emotional this is looking like it's going to be.
It looks like there's some cute furry animals in danger.
mhm.
Yeah. Somebody's going to die,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's the thing.
I
But
think so. I think it's going to be Drax, to be honest. Like, not spoilers, and if I got it wrong, I apologize.
Batista has said he's got no interest in coming back beyond this.
He hates putting that
movie, so.
that makeup process.
Yeah, that's him. Once this is done, he's done. So
The Flash is looking quite decent. James Gunn's come out and said he reckons it might be the best superhero film ever made.
I guess
So-
it's going to be those ones that it doesn't matter how good that movie is. Some people are going to boycott it,
Mm-hmm.
and it does look good.
Ezra Miller.
And Ezra Miller, and apparently it's
once,
got
but
Ben
twice.
Affleck and it's got Michael Keaton in it.
Mm-hmm.
And there could be some other cameos that we've not heard about yet. I'm hearing Linda Carter's possibly is a cameo in it, which
They
would
definitely
be
seem from. I know it's a Flash movie, but I think the distinction from the last trailer that they are leaning more in. Obviously, they are going to be still talking about the fact that Barry's trying to stop his mum's death, but they are very much leaning in more into the fact that they've got Michael Keaton Batman, and they've got Supergirl. She got more of in the more recent trailer. She's got more presence as well.
Yeah.
And a very I definitely one of my favorite comics ever is Flashpoint, and I was getting massive Flashpoint vibes from the trailer.
Mhm.
And that whole we've got a Kryptonian that we're keeping out of the sun and stuff like that.
There's some massive rumours floating about cameos that they're trying to introduce a lot of, because it's a multiversal thing, so they can introduce different people. And the big rumour that's floating about is that there's going to be like a Kingdom Come style Superman, with a black thing, played by a CGI'd Christopher Reeve, which they wouldn't have a dry eye in the house, would there? Because he was quintessentially Superman for me growing up. He was, he was the greatest of all the Clark Kent. He was the greatest actor to play Superman, I think.
If you give him Kingdom Come as his material as well, because that's a very, if memory serves, and if my feelings are not misplaced, Kingdom Come Superman is not what Christopher Reeve was he? He wasn't Kingdom.
No, but Kingdom Comes obviously he's a much older Superman.
Yeah.
He's a Superman who's been retired for 15, 20
Cutting
years.
about in dungarees, yeah.
Yeah, he does wear dungarees at one point. You're absolutely spot on. He's a much darker Superman who can step away from life when he was rejected in favour of more violent, more modern heroes. Kingdom Come, as I've said many, many times, is one of the greatest superhero comics ever written.
It's like totally, it's not Christopher Reeve's Superman. But actually, now that you said that, it's Christopher Reeve's Superman having been rejected by society for not being dark enough or cool enough.
Yeah. And like I said, an older CGI'd Christopher Reeve just in that sort of as a cameo role, I think would be nice.
It would be quite cool if they brought in like one of my favorite moments of the Flash, the Crisis on Infinite Earths, was when they brought in the Flash from they brought in John Leslie Shipp again.
As
but
Barry
they,
Allen from the sort of
they-
90s.
Yeah, they brought him in because obviously he's Jay Garrick,
Yeah.
and he plays Henry Allen, and then he plays Earth 3 Jay Garrick.
Yeah.
But then in Crisis on Infinite Earths they had him play. I think he's Earth 91 is what they call him. He's from Earth 91, but he is Earth 91 Flash, and it's he's playing the Flash from the 90s TV series, and that's still one of my favorite comic book TV program costumes.
It was very molded.
Yeah.
Thing it had, but that the Arrowverse, what the Arrowverse did very well is it found places for all the actors who'd done the roles before.
Yeah,
like Helen Slater is in Supergirl as as a character, and Dean Cain, I think, in Supergirl as well, and Linda Carter was in Supergirl as well. Actually,
I'm thinking even they had even in Crisis on Infinite Earths they had Burt Ward for a very brief cameo.
Ward, yeah.
So I was like, oh yeah, walking his Chihuahua. I'm like, this is amazing.
Those guys.
So excited for Flash. What have you guys been watching? Like, I've not seen you in ages. I picked up a couple of programs based on you guys making suggestions and ended up loving them. But I don't know what you guys been watching.
Oh no, you can't just leave it at that. You have to tell us which ones are suggested that you've loved.
Go on Disney Plus, everyone, and watch Extraordinary.
How funny! Extraordinary.
Say that again.
How funny was Extraordinary? Have you seen it?
I haven't. No.
It's just hilarious. There's.
So I'm back. I jumped in there.
It's an easy premise that everybody in the world has a superpower, apart from this one girl who's not developed her power yet. But our best friend sort of thing is a girl that can speak with the voices of the dead, and then she finds this cat that turns out to be a man that can turn into a cat, but he's forgotten his history and his names, and he's called Jizzlord. And
Jizzlord, yeah.
It's just the funniest show. If you've got Disney, just watch this show. It's just so funny, and it's 8 half-hour episodes, so it's an easy watch as well.
Yeah.
It's an easy watch. Hits a couple of emotional notes, but nothing too brutal. I quite like it's got some of my favorite actors in sitcoms. So the main character's mum is played by the lady that was Sister Michael and
Sister George Michael.
Derry Girl. She plays
she's just
she plays a superhero like control technology, but obviously she's also a parent who's fucking useless with technology. So like she can control technology, but she still can't get it to work, which is amazing.
She's absolutely amazing. How she should have won a BAFTA for the sort of role of Sister George Michael. That one scene where she's at a funeral and she starts this, am I dead? Is this my funeral? When she's coming to speak to Uncle what's his face. She's amazing. She's awesome.
She is great. That my favorite bits is when when it's maybe the first episode when Claire who's also massive now because of Bridgerton, but she says something like, we just have to stick by each other and like don't dob each other in no matter what. And then the moment they get into her office, she's just like, I had nothing to do with it. It was all them. And then as she finishes talking, Sister George Michael turns around and she's like, you probably need to be quiet now for a wee bit, Claire. I think we've all lost quite a lot of respect for you.
She's brilliant now.
Mm-hmm.
So she's an Extraordinary. If you've got Disney, you should absolutely watch Extraordinary.
Extraordinary is brilliant. It was Colin and Andrew that told me to watch that. We were in the pub. You were just like, check this out. And it's been one of my favorite shows of the year so far, I think.
Yeah. Well, as I said earlier, I've been pretty much I'm trying to watch some things which didn't make me think too much and aren't too heavy. That's why I've not watched The Last of Us for about 4 weeks. I'm saving them all up. But I've been watching Kim's Convenience, which is got an assorted geekery adjacent because Simon Liu, who is Shang-Chi, is one of the main characters in it.
Oh, well, cool.
So there you go. And it's like 4 seasons, and it's on Netflix, and it's just very, very funny.
I absolutely want to check that out, man. I will do that.
Just it's a simple like office style comedy show about a Korean family that live in Canada and they own a wee convenience store.
Is Ray Park in that as well?
Ray Park, the Darth Maul?
Oh, maybe.
Right.
Wait. No. Who is the
with the red face and the double sided lightsaber?
The Korean FBI guy that's in the Ant-Man movies that was
No,
also in WandaVision.
I ken what you mean, and I ken why you're getting mixed up here. He's in a show called Fresh Off the Boat.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is another show about immigrants. And I think that one's about him growing up.
Yeah.
Like his childhood or something like that.
I just assumed it was the same show.
No, yeah, Kim's Convenience is slightly is different. I've heard of that one, but I've not watched it.
Mm-hmm. Right, I'll need a name check because who is that guy?
He's great. He had quite a fun cameo in my other program that I wanted to talk about. I went to see Quantum Mania a couple weeks ago and enjoyed it, but was still massively disappointed by it. I think it wasn't as horrible as folks said it was, but it still had it still wasn't great. But he has a very, very brief cameo in that where it's made clear that him and Scott Lang are now actual buddies. And they're it's quite nice.
We have that moment in the second one where he's like, "Do you want to go for dinner?" Oh, well, of course not. He doesn't want to because
he's got magic tricks and he's trying not to be impressed by them.
Yeah. It's a shame that one's not getting the things because the first 2 Ant-Man movies, I think, stand on their own as very, very good movies. I think they're both a lot of fun. I watched the 2 of them back to back a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, so did that. I mean, recently watched them. I watched them with Sonny to get ready for Quantum Mania. Have you seen Quantum Mania yet?
I haven't. No.
Okay, I won't blow it for you. Then I will say it's interesting because I used it as the basis of a lesson at my work this week. So we're talking about why we review things and what makes a good review and what makes a bad review. Because I had a pupil that told me that Quantum Mania was garbage, and I went to see it, and I was like, actually, I looked back at it critically. I think I went in hoping it would be along the lines of Thor Ragnarok or like a Guardians of the Galaxy because it's dealing with a new universe that's fucking weird, but it's not weird enough. There's things like even down to the point that they hired a famous actor from my youth to play a prominent role. Obviously, Thor Ragnarok had Bill Goldblum, Jeff Goldblum, sorry, doing and then they had Bill Murray who's one of my favorite actors ever. He shows up in Quantum Mania, but his role's not what I wanted it to be. I was like, no, I wanted you to be like a really good, like a really funny character, and it felt it sort of stunk as stunt casting. And then obviously one of the best recurring aspects of the first 2 Ant-Man movies are the side characters. I really love like Luis and like the other criminals
telling his stories, and he does.
And it syncs up with all the actors. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and even just that squad of guys that like the squad of guys that help him out.
And Eastern European that believes in witches and things like this. Are they not in it? Or?
They're not in it at all. And
at all.
And then even I actually like quite annoying characters, but actually are really nice in their own way. Is Cassie's mum and the stepfather, who like they're not in it either. And I'm like, oh, I really wanted. I particularly like the stepfather character who really hates Scott in the first the first Ant-Man, but by the second one's giving him hugs and is like, and I'm like, that's really.
I was a bit disappointed as well that they recast Cassie for no reason that I can see. Like there was an actress played her in Endgame, but when it came to make this movie, they recast her for some reason. They wanted somebody.
I don't know why they recast her, but I will say the girl that plays Cassie, she's like her. I would say she's a highlight of Quantum Mania. She's brilliant. She's really good, actually. I wish you'd have seen it because there's spoilery stuff there's things that have been criticised that I really enjoyed. I understand that the CGI is a bit ropey in some of the scenes, but there's a character that shows up that I'm like, I love you.
We've spoken about this before, that the Marvel are getting a wee bit lazy when it comes to CGI. Like, the first few movies, they made sure everything was spot on when they went out. And then they started making so much money, and the thing was that we needed to get them out quicker and quicker and quicker. Yeah. That the CGI started to get a bit ropey. I think the first one I really noticed it in was Black Panther. The fight scene at the end was really, really bad. Yeah. And then Infinity War, the bits where Mark Ruffalo is in the Hulkbuster armor, really, really, really bad.
I think my understanding, or my vibe was by that point they were churning so much out that like maybe they would have had a massive department or a combination of departments working on one film, but by the time you get to Black Panther, they've got them doing at the same time
movies,
that they're
television series.
Yeah.
That's kind of. I think part of it was these things are happening so quick that they expect to get away with slightly ropey stuff because it's moving so fast, and you're on to the next thing. But people pick these apart now. They watch them in quarter speed and things like this, So I think quality-wise, since Endgame, Marvel hasn't been where it possibly wants to be.
Quantity rather than quality, I think now.
And the TV shows have been knocking it out of the park. WandaVision and Loki and Moon Knight in particular stand out for me. They've all been really, really good.
I think thematically they've managed, but I really like She-Hulk, but I really like She-Hulk, but you have to turn off your critical hat, because if you look too hard at it, you the CGI is rubbish in massive sections of it. But then,
if the story's there, it doesn't matter if CGI is bad, or even if you've not got CGI. Like, I've got massive hopes for Born Again, and they've just confirmed just in the last day or so that John Bernthald's coming back as Frank Castle in Born Again, which is great news. They've got the whole cast back apparently, although I'm not sure if Karen and Foggy have been.
I've seen that there's a massive online campaign for getting him back as Foggy. They're like, because they were saying like you can't have Matt without Foggy.
He's great in everything I've ever seen him in, which is Daredevil and the Mighty Ducks. Like, that's it. I don't know what he did for those 30 years in between.
Two tentpole franchises.
Two tentpole, exactly. I don't know what he did for the 20 years between Mighty Ducks and Daredevil, but amazing.
Eldon Henson. I'm actually Googling him right now.
Eldon
Henson, born on August 30th, 1977, is an American actor. He's best known for playing Fulton Reed in The Mighty Ducks and Foggy Nelson in Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Close the page.
He was also Pollux in Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2, which I haven't seen.
I've seen them. I didn't remember him being in them, but there you go.
He was, I don't know any of this other stuff. He was Turk in Dumb and Dumberer. He was Billy Zed in Lords of Dogtown, which is actually an amazing film. And he was Gunners in Deja Vu, which is an underrated film that I really, really like.
Deja Vu, is that John Cusack?
No, it's
Denzel.
Denzel, yeah. It's a good film. Kind of at a period of time where those kind of films were coming out quite a lot. He was also Doomsday. He voiced Doomsday in the short film The Death and Return of Superman. There you go. He's actually done loads, by the way. See if you got this like thingy.
I'm sure he's been working as an actor full time since between the Mighty Ducks and Daredevil. Nothing that springs to mind that he was doing.
Nothing as relevant.
Not Mighty Ducks and Foggy Nelson. So. Do you know who was the original Foggy Nelson?
That's
in the Daredevil movie.
Oh, it's thinking. Don't tell me. Director of the first Daredevil movie and the guy that plays. No, I'm doing that one. The guy that plays Tony Stark's assistant. Happy. The guy is Happy. I can't remember the actor's name, but it's the guy that plays Happy.
John
He's
Favreau.
foggy, isn't he?
John Favreau.
Yeah, it's John Favreau. Yeah.
Yes, Neil. I also started watching Picard season 3, and I'm enjoying it immensely. Although it's frustrating when something only comes out once a week. You think to yourself, I want to.
I'm saving it. I'm saving it till we're about 4 episodes in, because I will get really annoyed for that.
We're only a week away from the return of, possibly my favourite show of the last 2 years. Is coming back on the 15th of March for its 3rd season, and I know for a fact it's going to be like 1 episode a week, and it's going to be so frustrating. And that is, of course, Ted Lasso.
Oh yeah, right enough.
So excited for the new Ted Lasso. I'm going to do the same as well. We need to discuss as a group how we're going to watch these programs, because we could water cooler it for the benefits of the podcast, or are we all going to save it up and binge it, or I don't know.
I'll probably end up watching that once a week as it drops. To be honest with you, it's just too good a show not to.
Okay, I'll do the same.
Yeah, Ted Lasso's one of the best shows ever, and that's fits
phenomenal.
So good. Yeah, I don't really have much more assorted geekery. Definitely. I think if you watch Quantum Mania, you would walk away from that thinking this is quantity over quality at this point, which is really disappointing, because actually I thought the first 2 Ant-Man movies, though not the best in the MCU, were really tightly written and stood out on their own as really fun films. And I think Quantum Mania, despite having probably the most exciting premise on paper, is the most disappointing of the 3. You know what I mean?
I think the first one was primarily the first Ant-Man movie was written by Edgar Wright and Joe Cornish. So it had that kind of comedic sensibility that you would have expected for the guys who wrote, the Cornetto trilogy and things like that. That used to working with Simon Pegg, who was in the frame for being Ant-Man for quite a long time. I think he was the choice. I mean, I think this one is it's like they've gone a completely different direction. And as you say, the guys who play his friends were such an integral part. It was part of the framework of those movies that you'd have that scene where his pal told a story about when he was out and he met somebody, and he does all the voices and things like that. And it's part of what makes those movies great. And I think if they've moved away from that,
there are some amazing bits. I think what I wanted it to be really weird, and actually they do it a wee bit. But the best thing in there is how Scott Lang's so quintessentially nice, but also so quintessentially normal. And there's that whole thing oh yeah, I hang out with Avengers, even though I'm just a guy. And that's a big part of the story. And they play about a wee bit with that, where it's all this fucking weird stuff's happening around him, and he's just kind of going, and he kind of just stumbles through it with his nice guy personality. But I wish they just did that a wee bit more. I wish it got a bit wilder, and I wish he was he featured in that a wee bit more. But obviously there's 3 plots going on at the same time, and they're having to introduce they introduced the new baddie for the next set of Avengers movies, and
he'd already been introduced sort of in Loki. Jonathan Majors was in Loki as a variant of Kang. If anybody's read any of the comics, they'll know that Kang's got multiple variants. There's a young Kang, there's an old Kang, there's an older Kang whose life's work is to thwart his younger self, because there's multiples Kangs on there anyway. But
they play around with that, and actually some of the most effective stuff in the film is Jonathan Majors as Kang. But yeah, it was weird.
A massive year. As a breakthrough year for him. He's got Creed as well, which I'm very much looking forward to.
Yeah, I like the Creed movies.
Yeah.
So, that was one of the major adverts. It was that Mario Brothers and Dungeons and Dragons were the big trailers at the start of the film.
Okay.
And then there's new John Wick coming out soon as well.
This month.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
diminishing returns in John Wick. The first one was brilliant. Second one, not so much. Third one, not so much.
I haven't seen any of the John Wick movies.
And this one, I think,
first one's very good as a standalone movie. It's very good.
This
I
one's
think
going to
the
be about 3 hours long,
Yeah.
which is crazy. But it's also got Donnie Yen in it, so I'll watch it.
It's got
Donnie Yen's great.
it's not got not Morgan Freeman. Lawrence Fishburne's in it, isn't it? I think they're kind of playing around with the idea that's the first time that they've been in the same film together since Matrix.
I think he's been in all of the John Wick movies.
Yeah. He was certainly in 3. I don't think he was in 1.
Right.
He was in 2 or 3.
Yeah,
Sure,
he was in
The guy with the birds on the top of the building, isn't
exactly. And
Yeah.
by the end of one movie, it looked like they cut him up to pieces. But he lived. Took a lot of plasters, but he lived.
Like I say, one's great. Everything else afterwards. The best sequel, and it's not even a sequel, but there is this kind of rumor that it takes place in the same universe because of the gold. Is a movie called Nobody.
Oh yeah,
with Bob Odenkirk.
The guy from Better Call Saul.
Yes, which is a great movie, and again, a massive amount of fun.
I love those movies. Do you know what one of my favorite movies as a kid was The Transporter with Jason Statham?
Yeah.
I love just like, again, diminishing returns with those, but that first Transporter movie was more fun than it had any right to be. It's just like
comedy chase scenes and almost cartoon-like violence.
Yeah.
It's just things like that. And that's the staple of Jason Statham's career since then. I think if he tries to be too serious, it doesn't work. But you know, if he's got to keep on taking something, or his heart will explode every 30 minutes or something like that.
That was a great. What was that one? That was
Crank.
High Voltage.
High Voltage was the sequel.
All right, so good. Crank. That's Jonathan saying like, "Have you seen Crank?" The first Crank's amazing, and I spent a lot of time in my youth like loving anything that Amy Smart was in. So it was like when I saw her.
Amy Smart. Why does that ring a bell? Who's Amy Smart? Where do I know her from?
She was the pretty girl in Road Trip. She was in.
Oh yeah.
She was also in a Butterfly Effect, which is one of those movies that I went into the cinema thinking it was going to be funny, and it was like I thought it was going to be quick. I thought, oh, Ashton Kutcher, funny Ashton Kutcher from that '70s show in a time travel movie. This is going to be very funny. Oh, Amy Smart, she's lovely. She's often the girl in teen comedies. No.
Not funny at all. There's a Crank too, High Voltage. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, not funny at all.
Don't watch the Butterfly Effect if you want a good time. I one of those weird films. I remember watching the Butterfly Effect when I was younger, and then I watched like a list program on YouTube where they were talking about like movies that had more interesting alternative final scenes or something like that. But actually, the ending of the Butterfly Effect in UK wasn't the ending of the Butterfly Effect in any other country it was released in.
Yeah,
we got everyone else got a happy ending, and we got a really horrible ending with like
he aborted himself before he was.
He aborted himself. Whereas
they did the thing at the start of the movie where she'd had 3 miscarriages beforehand, and they implied that it was the previous babies had done the same, that they'd lived their lives and everything never worked out, so they aborted themselves.
Whereas in America they got like a weird twisty one where he basically just decided he wasn't going to chase the girl, because if he didn't chase the girl, everything sort of worked itself out. I was like, all right. Whereas we got the horrible aborted baby version. So, don't go see that film if you're a fan of that '70s show and want a bit of a laugh. It's not going to happen with that movie. Any other sort of geekery that we wanted to chat whether about? Do you have any wrestling chat you want to talk about, Stu?
I mean, we could. There was a pay-per-view at the weekend.
There was an excellent fight at the weekend. There's a guy called John Jones. Tapped out very, very quickly. Didn't last any length of time, but that was actual fighting.
Wasn't there also Jake Gyllenhaal was there?
Jake Gyllenhaal was there.
There for the Roadhouse remake.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
He thingied some scenes for the Roadhouse movie, and they did it in front of a real crowd and a real UFC event, so that it felt real.
Yeah, so I wonder if that was there for like a flashback for his character, because I'd just watched Roadhouse at the start of the year, so I wonder if that was a throwback to what he was like before being a bouncer. But
I think it is. I think they've changed his backstory to he's a
cage
UFC
fighter.
So
Yeah.
Um,
But okay. Oh yeah, you've changed the banner too.
So for anyone that's wondering what the fuck's going on, right? So me and Stu used to do a podcast for about a month called The Brew Age Outlaws, which was just an attempt of a Brewgooder spin-off. Andrew, you just please hang out and throw in outsider references, because that'd be funny. But yeah,
you know exactly what I'm going to say. Every time we talk about wrestling, I say the same things, because I've only got, the three greatest wrestlers of all time have all retired. Two of them medically, and one died.
It's also medical, in fairness. He was medically, he died, so he's medically unfit to perform.
He is the greatest wrestler of all time, the one who would beat every single other wrestler in the world ever. Died, so he doesn't wrestle anymore. And I can see Stuart going,
I don't know who he's talking about. Like, you're gonna have to give me some names. I was like,
I
was thinking
Guerrero.
Owen Hart.
Eddie Guerrero. No. The guy who actually could beat everybody else.
Oh, it's gonna be old British wrestlers, World of Sport guys, isn't it?
I'm going to say Big Daddy. I know. No, I'm talking about Andre the Giant. Like, they literally had to fix every. I mean, obviously they fix a lot of fights anyway, but they literally, no one was big enough to. He was just freakishly big.
Have you seen the Andre the Giant documentary that HBO put out?
It's amazing. There's one of my favourite moments is they talk about he quite often would drink, like he would famously drink like 3 bottles of wine with his dinner, a full bottle of whiskey, and like 2 cases of beer. And on multiple occasions, he would collapse drunk in the bar, and they couldn't do anything. They basically just had to throw a cover over him because it was impossible to move him.
Who's going to lift this guy?
So,
my favourite story of that documentary was when he'd filmed his scenes for The Princess Bride, which is a great film, by the way. He's actually really good in it. He's very, very funny in it, actually. But apparently he was so proud of his. If you watch the documentary, there's a story where he's like so proud of his work on The Princess Bride that he would like routinely make people watch The Princess Bride backstage with him and be like, "Oh, watch this bit. I'm in this bit." and folk were so afraid to like not do it that he would have whole squads of folk watching Princess Bride nightly. So
to me, I'd like to say amazing film. They're talking about making a remake. Fuck that shit. No need.
With
leave it
Jake
alone.
Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor.
They do the whole, the things for if you're going for a job interview, you have to follow, the way he does it. Greetings. My name is thing like that. You killed my father. Prepare to die. And it's like, greeting. Introduce yourself. Give an important piece of pertinent information, and then establish what you're after from the meeting.
That's amazing.
It's a great movie. So, but yes, Andre the Giant was the greatest wrestler of all time, and the other 2 greatest wrestlers of all the time were Mick Foley and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and both of them medically retired now. One with their knees, and I think Mick Foley with his back or his neck or something like that. Was it?
Yeah. I mean, Steve fought last year at WrestleMania and had a really good match.
Yeah,
he was taking suplexes on the concrete in the crowds.
Because his neck and his knees, if something goes wrong, he can die. I'm surprised they can get the insurance for it.
Yeah, I don't know how they done it.
That's why Bret Hart was his insurance was the Lloyd's of London, like the big bank, and he got his what's that called? He got kicked in the pus really, really hard by Goldberg, and basically was concussed, and then was deemed medically unclear, and he got a massive payout by Lloyd's of London for basically having to retire. But as a result, wasn't allowed to take any bumps ever again. Yeah. So, and then it was 2009-10, he had a match with Vince McMahon that was billed as like a big wrestling match with Vince McMahon at WrestleMania. But then it was like, well, we all know that Bret the Hitman Hart can't fall on his back Otherwise, he'll owe Lloyd's of London millions of pounds.
Yeah,
So
to pay back
it's just-
all the money.
it was basically 10 minutes of him hitting Vince McMahon with things, and it was really like, I don't like this. I'm a massive Bret the Hitman Hart fan. I want him to feel like he's got the justice he deserves for all the injustices that were served to him by WWF in the 1990s. But this is just one,
Like his brother dying, for instance, on an ill-fated.
or just in like Montreal. Obviously Owen Hart's death, but also the Montreal screw job and stuff in the late '97 Survivor Series. But there was just it just became Bret the Hitman Hart, who was like a middle-aged man beating up an old man for 10 minutes on that, and it was like, this isn't justice. This is assault. So wrestling this week, we and Stu like to talk about wrestling, so we thought we'd maybe do 10 minutes and try and get this podcast under 2 hours. But this week has been a pretty weird one, isn't it? Like we had a Revolution. AEW did Revolution this week, which was really fun. I've not finished it all, but what I have watched is probably one of the better pay-per-views All Elite Wrestling I've ever done, to be honest.
Yeah, it's the only wrestling I've watched this week. I haven't caught anything else.
I thought I love MJF. Really like MJF as a character. Thought he has had quite interesting for a heel, so a baddie. I think quite interesting for a heel. Usually heels make good champions to give like a decent, like a goodie, like a chase. Whereas actually MJF is like the rare example of the other way around, where actually he was more exciting as a heel trying to get the title than he has been as a champion. But I think obviously give Daniel Bryan an hour and he'll be and that which is what they did. Put him in the ring with Daniel Bryan for an hour, and it's incredible.
Yeah, definitely. It was one of those ones where funnily enough, you forget how long a 1 hour Iron Man match is. Like, I think I was looking at my phone and it said, we're only 15 minutes in. It's like, Jesus Christ, I thought we were halfway. But literally, like, the last 15 minutes of that match was perfect. Like, even like the big elbow drop through the table, and it didn't break the table completely. So a little running tombstone, just like wee touches like that. And yeah, I was like, we knew something was going to give when it went to sudden death. But I love like even the referee getting involved. Like, was it Bryce Grimsberg?
Yeah.
Like, just say when MJF was pushing him, and he was like, "I will disqualify you, and I will give that belt to him. Stop pushing me." And I was like, "Oh, this is good." Just giving that wee extra bit to like the referees. But that maybe wasn't my match of the night.
Oh
no. I really loved how the Elite versus the House of Black match turned out, because I've always kind of loved that supernatural angle that the House of Black have, where it's just the lights go out, come on, they're there, they're wearing like the skull masks with the horns, and the lights go out, and then they're in the ring in their signature poses. There's all just kind of like that supernatural feel to them, and
which can be quite ropey. I think sometimes it can be quite cheesy, but the House of Black seem to do it really well. I think it's almost because the aesthetic is kind of North European kind of in it. It's like it's that Norse,
and yeah, the fact that half of them are also like head to toe covered in tattoos as well. Like, there is just something like they look like they are from a horror movie or a supernatural horror. But it was great. I think it's just nice to see the Elite doing matches that isn't against like the Death Triangle, because obviously we had like our Best of 7 series, which was excellent. I loved it, but I was just like, right, I need to see them fight different people though. Like, I want to see like Matt Jackson try and super kick Brody King.
Yeah.
And just the fact that he just looked like a fucking like orc from Lord of the Rings. Just this huge, absolute unit of a guy, war paint down his face, and just swatting his opponents away. It was brilliant.
They're definitely like a different kinds of trio champs, aren't they? Because I think we've had so far, there's obviously been the Elite, and there's been not best friends. Sorry, it was it was Lucha Brothers and Pac that were the other ones, wasn't it? So actually, they're a different kind of unit. Is the House of Black? So it's great. Fucking love it. I love Malachi Black. I bumped into him at a show that I used to when I worked for Ring of Honor. Not Ring of, I didn't work for Ring of Honor. What am I talking about? Reckless Intent. That's who I worked for. Worked for Reckless Intent in Livingston in Scotland. Never mind fucking Ring of Honor in Philadelphia, right? I worked for Reckless Intent, and he was there because he was dating a girl. I think he's married now to somebody who's also quite prevalent in wrestling, whose name escapes me right now. He used to date a girl called Courtney who wrestles in Scotland and the UK. And I remember walking into him and he's like a fucking massive man, is Malachi Black. He was wrestling as Tommy End at the time. I bumped into him, I was ring announcing. I bumped into him, I was like, all right. And he was like, hiya. But he wasn't in his ring gear because he wasn't on the show that night. I was like, all right. And he was like, hiya. And he's just a very distinctive looking man with loads of tattoos and looks like he would kill you if you like looked at him the wrong way. But I remember just like going backstage and going like, who's that guy with the tattoos? And somebody going, oh, it's Tommy End. I mean, like, oh, I know him he was big in ICW at the time. And I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, that's what I remember him from.
But a year later, he was on, 2 years later, he's on the American scene. And obviously he wrestled with WWE. And then it's like, fucking hell.
Guys, I'm going to call it a night, and I'll leave you to chat about the wrestling.
We're only going to anyway, man. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you at the weekend, presumably at some point, or maybe.
Yeah, don't feel you need to come around this weekend because you know you're in your thing at the weekend. But actually, it's the beginning of the month. It's going to be a quiz night again soon, is it not? Second Sunday.
This week or next week, maybe. I'll find out. Maybe. Yeah, I can't do this week. Next week, that'd be amazing.
Okay, thanks, guys. I'm going to call out and leave you guys to it. Yeah, guys. Bye.
Yeah, the House of Black guys are amazing. That's Jonathan asking if we're going to WrestleCon in May. So anybody in Scotland, the guys that run Acme Comic Con, which we've worked at and volunteered at in the last year, they're running a wrestle convention in Acme WrestleCon in Glasgow in May. And it's I think when I was there, I was at Acme in November last year, and it was September last year, and there was wrestling shows being run by Iron Girders Gym, who I believe are owned. Iron Girders is owned by Wolfgang, who is currently one half of Gallus in NXT.
No, the tag champions.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. That was quite smart. That was quite smart at Acme last year. I spoke to Simon Cassidy very briefly, who's like the voice of Scottish ring announcing, basically.
He announced the show that we had in Leven last week for FPWA.
So is FPWA an offshoot of ICW? Is it owned or?
It's almost kind of like in the sense that they always call it's an asylum, isn't it? And this one seems like the abbreviation stands for like 5 Pro Wrestling Asylum. So it does sound like a spin-off. Also, it's ran by Andy Roberts, Andy Wild, who is like an ICW wrestler, but I think he is also like a Fife-based wrestler. So he teaches, does adults, juniors, children classes that my son goes to. And yeah, he does like local shows in Leven, like once every 3 months. And it always ends up being like a sellout. It's an amazing atmosphere. I've never seen like my kids just scream so much. Like, it's just like when one of the guys is being hailed from methyl docks and the place blows up in the local reference. But no, they were fighting New Wave Pro Wrestling, which is a Welsh school ran by Wild Boar.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like school versus school. So the show they're doing in June, it's going to be FBWA going against Iron Girders Gym.
Oh, right. Certainly the Iron Girders guys were really cool. They ran all the shows at Acme. But BT Gunn was floating about, Thatcher Wright, who I've only ever seen in wrestling magazines, and he walked past me in our table, and I was like, just leaning over, I was like, "Are you Thatcher Wright?" And he was like, "Yeah." And basically, fair play. He just walked through the SECC in Glasgow wearing a Union Jack,
carrying the book.
Carrying blinking, carrying Margaret Thatcher's autobiography.
Yeah, living the gimmick.
Yeah, totally. And then obviously, that's Jonathan, who was there at Acme last year. So he met Kes Evans. There was some sort of big names in the Scottish scene there.
Mhm.
That's John saying, "Hey, Phil, did I miss anything? I fell asleep." You missed all the bits of the podcast I think you're interested in, John. But they will be available on YouTube tomorrow in sections. So if you want to watch the wrestling bit, watch the wrestling bit. If you want to watch the comic bit, watch the comic bit. If you want to watch the beer bit, watch the beer bit. If you want to watch it all, watch it all.
If you want to see Andrew lose a bet on the Super Mario Brothers movie,
Yeah,
take notes.
yeah, you were there at ground zero. Other things like I don't want to talk too much about wrestling because there's so many other wrestling review shows. I just wanted to have about what we enjoyed.
Nah, we've only got 5 minutes till we hit the 2-hour mark, so
yeah, I think that's a bit fair. I noticed this week it was this morning this week's Dynamite. So I've not seen it yet because it's not been broadcast.
No, I haven't either.
I did read online that they've rebranded the All Atlantic Championship.
Yeah, it's international.
Yeah, I think Tony Khan's called it leveling up, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that actually means, but yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten used to All Atlantic. So for them to change it now, it's going to take me getting used to it again. But Orange Cassidy's an excellent champion.
Yeah, he is fighting champ as well. He's done really well.
I think he has a record for like the most title defenses from all the champions they've had. But I'd love it if we could spend a minute at least talking about the Texas Death Match.
Yes, let's do that.
Like just even Hangman's entrance, like they changed up the music, they had it all like lit in reds, and like they changed his gear, proper gave it like the big fight feel for him, like almost sort of like a joint main event. And then just for Moxley to come in and Hangman not even to wait, just to run out and jump him as he came in through the barriers.
Yeah, that was brutal. Like
hard to watch.
I watched it thinking like it is very hard to watch, and actually very, very surprised that AEW do these kind of matches on these kind of on this sort of stage, because I can't actually think, other than maybe the Attitude Era, which even by the standards of what you're seeing Texas Death Matches stuff that AEW do, still relatively tame. I know like folk will check me down and be like, "Oh, fucking Mankind's getting lobbed off like the cell and stuff," but actually like 50% of his falls off the cell were accidental. So, but and none of them were through like barbed wire on pay-per-view. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and that's it. It's still maybe a step below the likes of, is it GCW, where it's like a lot of glass, a lot of fire, light tubes, like wooden skewers embedded in people's foreheads. But yeah, whenever someone pulls out a fork in a wrestling match, I'm like, oh no.
Yes.
Oh,
it's so stabby.
Yes, okay. I know it's like a safe way to do it, but just watching, like, weren't they like in a figure four, and then he just reached into his boot and just started stabbing the guy in the forehead, and the next thing you seen, he was just covered in the other guy's blood, and like, what's the safe way of doing this? Like, for God's sake, I hope these people are all right, but just the barbed wire.
So many points in that death match, I was like, I can't actually believe that. Obviously, there's a rating system. I still can't believe that they're managing to toe a line that allows them to broadcast this the way they're doing it. It's quite surprising, to be honest. But yeah,
and even when they brought out bricks, like it isn't the usual where it's like the movie prop where they hit it and then it just turns to dust.
No,
but it's like also I just assume these are props. I hope they aren't lamping themselves with actual bricks. But yeah, just like even for like just chapping, I think it's Hangman's fingers between two bricks, just like, oh, please, and then hitting each other over the heads or doing curb stomps onto them.
Yeah, that curb stomp was brutal. It was like, I wonder how they're doing it. I wonder how they're doing it. I'm really excited. I got myself a Fight TV Plus subscription.
Okay.
In preparation for WrestleMania weekend, because there's a group that GCW are part of called The Collective that do loads of events over WrestleMania weekend. I think basically, but I want to do that one year. Go to WrestleMania and do like, because it's like WrestleMania night 1, 2.
I know that's it. It's almost like a week's worth of events you could go to. It's like a giant celebration of the sport.
Yeah, totally. it's interesting. All Elite Wrestling now have seemed to have got themselves in a level where they're not engaging in that. I know Ring of Honor are putting on a show on the Friday night in the area, which I'm really looking forward to. Their Super Card of Honor is on the Friday night.
Yeah, aye.
But they've done. Have you caught any of the Ring of Honor stuff?
No, I'm excited. I want to because I'm a big Eddie Kingston fan, and I've seen that he's shown up there now. So I do want to check it out. And yeah, I've heard about this ladder match. What's it? Oh, it's to do with Reach for the Sky ladder match. Yeah, it sounds like a great idea. So
they announced their first team for that yesterday, I think, and it was who did they announce? It's broadcast on. I think if you go on the Ring of Honor website, you can catch these shows for free at the moment. For the Sky. I think I was just saying it might actually be the Lucha Brothers.
Yeah. That sounds right now.
Yeah, so that's good. No, it's exciting. And that's just that crossover appeal. Like they've developed their own Forbidden Door where they can have they can have Ring of Honor boys show up and so even like guys and then New Japan guys. So like Zack Sabre Jr. was on Ring of Honor last night.
Yeah, aye.
And obviously he's currently the television champion for New Japan. So it's so exciting. Like it's
not like they're all just in their own individual ponds. There's so much crossover. So
even just that Ring of Honor All Elite New Japan triangle.
Yeah.
Which isn't really a triangle because then you've got when Nick Gage has showed up, isn't he?
Aye.
He's done bits and pieces, and so that's exciting. Exciting to be a wrestling fan this year. Like
they teased that Bryan Danielson said he was going to return home to wrestle, and people were speculating, obviously, Ring of Honor, but wasn't the whole American Dragon persona given to him because he went to New Japan?
Yeah.
So and they're all promoting, like I think was it the G1 tournament is coming up soon.
It's my favorite month of wrestling.
So honestly, if he shows up for that,
that was so exciting. We need to play about with that. We need to sit as the year goes on, and like, I don't know. I want to make the sort of Brew Age Outlaws thing quite different than just reviewing wrestling. So obviously, as 20 minutes on the Brewgooders just to talk about what's going on. But I genuinely think we see with Andrew. I reckon if we use G1 Climax, for example, as a template and be like, right, mate, it's a tournament. There's there's pools of guys. There's like a points-based system. I think we could buy it. We could baffle Andrew enough with the stats required to follow the G1 Climax that he would be like all over it. I think he'd probably be keeping us right. So.
Well, good luck to you and your quests.
I think saying right, like that might be the way to do it. Just turn around to him and go, right, this guy's called Bryan Danielson. He's fucking quality. We just want to watch. We just want you to follow what he does for the next couple of months on wrestling, and then report back. And then just if it's the G1 Climax, just go right. Here's my New Japan Pro Wrestling account. Here's the dates that this guy's wrestling. Just try and keep up with him and let us know what you think and see what Andrew like. This is good. Right, well, we call it quits just now.
Yeah, and, that's it. We've hit the 2-hour mark.
I've actually just drank all 4 of my brew dogs, which I'm really proud of.
There
you go. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Somebody just popped a wee like at the end there, which was quite heartening.
No, thank you.
Check us out next week. We'll be chatting about our comics and our beers, and we'll have Assorted Geekery, and we'll have our wee wrestling chat at the end as well. If anybody has anything they want to talk about, if anyone wants to come on the shows that we do, if anyone wants to have their piece of work reviewed, if anyone's got a Kickstarter coming up, if anyone's got a Comic-Con that they're running, if anyone's got anything happening in the world of beer, comics, Assorted Geekery, please just get in touch, and we will endure and we will ensure that you're mentioned or on the show in some way, shape, or form. So I'm trying to build the community up again because we've been away for a while.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah, I'm finished as well. I'm doing a live stream on Saturday night over on YouTube. The Lagalogs hit a milestone at the beginning of the year with 100 subscribers. So there's been technical issues between my internet connection and Tom's laptop. So now all those are sorted. So we're going to get together on Saturday night around 8 o'clock, have a few beers live on our channel, and have a bit of a clips episode, showing some of our video highlights over the last year, and then inviting some guests on for a blether and a beer.
That's just amazing. So yeah, pop the links in there. I'll try and fill this out with links, but yeah, absolutely, you should absolutely do that Saturday. I'm away to. I will catch it up on the replay because I am going to a Bruce Springsteen tribute band on Saturday.
Not bad.
So, but yeah, it sounds amazing. We'll catch everybody over the weekend at some point. Get you in Kirkcaldy, get you in Livingston, get you on YouTube with Tom and with Stu messing about. That'd be good. Hey guys.
Take it easy. Peace.